So how did you all come up with the idea of, round two? Like, were y'all just like talking about it, and then it just, came into fruition?
There really wasn't like any talk about it or anything. We kind of just like round two just came about from us just like doing what we do and just like this is what we do. All we would do was buy, sell, trade. Like we would just go places, find shit, sell it for more. Like we'd be out thrifting every single morning and we'd take stuff home. We'd sell some of it to places around here. We'd sell some of it to people that we know. We'd sell some of it on eBay. And so we'd have all these like different little places that we were selling stuff and we were just like, fucking man, dude, it's just like it got too overwhelming. When we first started, we were doing all sorts of just like sneaker shows, like all the little sneaker shows around here. So we would go to those sneaker shows, we'd set up a table, and everybody would come out, they'd look at all the shoes there, they'd pay $5-10 to get in, they'd be like, oh man, all these shoes are so expensive, they're $300, I'm not gonna buy anything. But they didn't want to leave with nothing. So they'd come to our table, they'd buy like some polos for $10, some like cheaper shoes for like $50-60, things like that. And so that's where we like first got I guess like our following and like our customer base was like from doing these sneaker shows. And from there, we realized that we kind of did have like a following and everything. We were running out of storage space in our houses to just like store this stuff because we were having people come over to our like closets and just shop our closets personally. Yeah, it was pretty cool. So we set up a storage unit like a store, and we just did it over at U-Haul. We rented the biggest storage unit that they had, and we just made it look exactly like a store. We had racks in there. We had everything. There was jackets all up on the walls and everything. It was sick. So people would just like come by. They'd hit us up, schedule an appointment, and they could come by and shop that. And that was like how we were like selling stuff then. Also, we were doing eBay at the time, which like eBay fees, they get pretty like expensive. It's like 20% of what you sell stuff for, so it adds up at the end of the month. And so we were kind of just looking into it, and we were spending so much between eBay fees and like doing these sneaker shows and rent on the storage unit that we were like, man, we might as well just get a store and like just put everything in one, and we like always have a place to sell our stuff. We like it's always open. We like can stock it. It's way bigger. It's just way better. And so this ended up just like popping up super randomly. I walked in here maybe a month before the guy who was in here before left, and he was like, yo man, I'm moving to Colorado, I'm giving up the space. And we just took it right off of him, and that's where the ball started rolling. It's just been like that since.
So when did round two become a business, like an official business?
Round two became, it's always been an official business, because like even before when we had the storage unit and everything, we had a website that was always running, and it was called Round Two Vintage, and we would just upload tons of stuff on there also. And so it was kind of always like a real thing, but it didn't have like a brick and mortar storefront until almost 2 years ago now. Very, very, it's actually about to be our second anniversary in like a week, yeah.
So what would you say is the culture around two, and how do y'all contribute to RVA or give back to the community?
Okay. The culture of round two is just like hooking people up and like getting the sneaker game back to where it was when we all got into it back in the day. Like you didn't have to pay out the ass for every single pair of sneakers back in the day. And I think the original idea was just like, let's open a spot where people can actually get sneakers, get stuff that's not out anymore, not have to pay eBay fees. Like, obviously, everything's real. You don't have to worry about that. And just, like, hooking people up as much as we can while we can still support ourselves, Like, obviously, a business is in business to make money, but, like, that's not the main thing for us. The main thing is to, like, help people out and help people get the shit that they wanted or couldn't get when they were younger or had and got rid of. What was the second part of that question? Or was there a second? Oh, I would just say, like, helping people get stuff they want and, like, helping them get it as cheap as possible. Like, if you see there are other stores that do what we do or try to do what we do, and they fucking try to tax people, and then when they buy shit from people, they, like, pay them too little and then upcharge. Like, you'll never see me buy a pair of shoes and sell it for any more than twice of what I paid you for it, and usually it's less than that, So I don't know. I just like try to like help people get the stuff they want,
So Luke, just tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got into sneakers.
About myself, how I got into sneakers was, I don't know, I'm like 26 from Charlottesville, which is like an hour west of Richmond, and it's like not necessarily like the biggest sneaker community, but I think for me it was just like getting into hip hop culture and like listening to fucking hip hop, loving it, and then just like wanting to emulate that shit myself, and like I thought everyone who did that shit looked so sweet, so it's just like it was on me to like wear the shit they were wearing and just like try to fucking be cool,
They carry weight, know I'm hot, that's why I got mad fans in every state. Real raw, bring it straight to your door like
hip hop is synonymous with sneakers. Like, if there's hip hop, there's sneakers, there's hip hop.
Yeah, I would definitely say that hip hop is synonymous with sneakers. Like, I mean, I think they definitely go hand in hand. Like back in the day, I can't name any like 80s rap quotes, but like, what did Nas say in Illmatic? Is like, I'm addict for sneakers. 20s of Buddha, bitches with beepers, like shit like that. Like, it's just like an expression of like being fly and like. I mean, I think hip hop's always been about like being as cool as you can be and like being like the flashiest dude. Not necessarily like the flashiest dude, but like, being like the best you can be at what you do. And like, hip hop's a lot about image, and sneakers are definitely like a huge thing with image.
Like a lot of people would say with hip hop in particular, it's deteriorated over the years. Would you say the same's been with sneakers?
I mean, a lot of people do say that hip hop has deteriorated over the years. I don't necessarily think that's true. I think it's changed. Like I love, I listen to Future every fucking day. Like I love De La and old school shit. Like Grandmaster Flash, even like back in the day, Run DMC, all that shit. But I listen. I grew up listening to like Dipset and like modern shit. Like. So, I listen to trap shit, I listen to Migos, I listen to everything, I still listen to old Nas, and in the shop we listen to old school all the time. Hey, what's up? I don't think hip hop's deteriorated. I think the sneaker game has deteriorated simply because like there are good new designs that come out, but for the most part, like everything that people are hype on nowadays is shit that came out back in the day. Like all the good original designs are from like the early late 80s to like the early 2000s, and when I first got into it like 02, 03, I think like 90s to like 05 was like the golden age of sneakers. Like the problem now is like when I was growing up, like you could grab something in the store 2 weeks after it came out and it wasn't a big deal. Now you gotta wait in line for this shit, and the quality's not as good, it's more expensive, and like you see like gumpy kids wearing them, like, so it's just different. I'm not as hype on it as I used to be, but I still love it. Obviously, it's my life,
As far as like sneakers and all that and like the market going away, I definitely can agree with like the whole like hip hop is deteriorating, but I think that hip hop is only deteriorating on like a popular level. I think there's still dudes that are killing it. You know what I'm saying? There's definitely still people. There's still people that are like fucking killing it, but at like a national level, it's just ugly. It's just like gotten so ugly, and like sneakers have like kind of blown up in like that sort of way too, where like it's like become almost watered down, and like everybody's doing it, and it's like all the same shit. But then at the same time, there is like that niche market of people who like really really love it or like really have like an attraction to it. And most people, they buy a couple shoes and it's like they wear them for a couple years and like that's that. Like they like the Jordans for a couple years. But for other people, dude, it's like a whole lifestyle, and it's like you've been wearing shoes for a long time and you will keep wearing shoes, and there's shoes that you need to have in your life, and there's shoes you want to have in your life that you never will have, but you'll always be looking at them on Google and like shit like that.
You could almost say like with the whole hip hop and sneaker thing. So you know how like a lot of hip hop, even now, like they sample stuff from back in the day. So in a way, like the style sample. Yeah, what do you say?
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. Like I would think sampling. Well, I think it's different with sneakers though, because like with hip hop, like you sample like a sound and you make the song around it. With sneakers, they just redo the whole fucking sneaker. Like when they try to do stuff like the Spizikes or like those Jordans that are like the 6s and 17s all mixed together, it doesn't work out as well. Like sampling is such an integral part of like dope hip hop to me. Like those Heatmakers beats and shit. Like I said, like growing up listening to Dipset, like sampling was such a huge thing. I think that with sneakers, it's more about recycling than sampling, you know, which is like a good and a bad thing, you know.
Unfortunately, dude, I just like don't even think that they're like comparable at all. Music, I love how they do samples and everything because I think it's taking two completely different genres and putting them together and making something awesome. For example, how like Kanye West used to sample like soul music and stuff like that. And you know how like Ninth Wonder people will sample like they'll have the sweetest like soul samples and like you hear the song and you're like, man, I would have never known like that was the sample of that hip hop song. And so with like the whole like hip hop sampling and everything, I think it's like it is kind of a recycling, but it's like I don't want to say like a renewal, but it's like putting it all in like a whole new light and like a whole new way. With the whole Jordan thing, they release the same colorways, you know, so it's like kind of just the same thing over and over, so Jordan can make more money. Because it's like, dude, we sold out of 1 million pairs of these Olympic sixes. They're like, why wouldn't we just put them back out in a couple years and just resell out of 1 million pairs? It's like, why not? With the music thing, you can't exactly re-release a song again and people go, oh shit, that song's dope, because you know they've already heard it. But that's why sampling is cool, and that's why like it's like way, I could see how it would be like comparable, but it's like way different, you know?
My niggas get fame. I pray for glory and aim. Zip like an O's for the foreign exchange. You know my name, not my lifestyle.
Would you say you all are like the pioneers, forefounders of the sneaker movement in Richmond? Because I originally went to Christopher Newport, and like people, like there's a buzz about this. Y'all were like just starting up. I was like, yo, let me check it out. And I went in here, bro. It was like like a utopia, because like I love hip hop, love old school stuff, and like I love like the memorabilia and stuff. So is that, would you consider y'all like round two being like the pioneers of the sneaker or like old school movement?
I guess I wouldn't want to say that like I'm the pioneer of this shit, because that's like so, like to me that's like a big-headed thing to say. Like I mean, people might say that, but I'm pretty modest about it. Like when I came to Richmond, like there were mad sneaker spots. Like coming from Charlottesville, like you had to come to Richmond to get dope sneakers because they didn't have shit where I'm from. So like to me, there's always been a fucking crazy sneaker movement in Richmond. Like obviously it's no New York or like, you know, Atlanta or Chicago, you know what I'm saying? But like there's always been a sneaker movement in Richmond, just because there's like VCU, U of R, I mean not U of R, but VUU, you know, VSU. College kids are always gonna be in the forefront of that shit because they're like old enough to get it and like have enough money to do it. But I mean, we've obviously, I think, changed a lot of the things about it. You know, like I think when it comes to this like this secondhand, like not straight retail, I would say we definitely changed the game. But you know, I don't want to call myself a pioneer. I feel like an asshole saying that.
The sneaker community has completely blown up around here. It has changed so much, it's crazy. Before, you would walk around and like, I've always loved sneakers, you know, so that's why I started this. Like, and you'd walk around, you wouldn't see anybody who was like hip to stuff. Like nobody really knew what like Supreme was, or like Ape, or like any like dope Jordans or like things like that. And it was like, man, it kind of sucks. And like now that like with Instagram and things like that, everything is so accessible that people learn about stuff easier, and people, they want to look like this and they want to have this and they want to be like this, and their friend bought this so they want to have this. And so it's like Richmond changed, like we like kind of helped change Richmond, but also like just with like Instagram and like everybody like wanting that, and like kind of just like Jordan's completely coming back around. I think just like the whole like world has like kind of become like more and more into sneakers and everything in the last 2 years, and it's definitely become huge in Richmond. And like, I mean, as you can see, like the store's busy like all the time, and like that's like honestly something when we started we didn't think would happen at all. We were like, shit, how are we gonna make $30 a day to pay for our rent? Like, how are we gonna like make our money? Like, how are we gonna like do this? And it's changed a lot, because like even when we first started, like the store was like, you know, way slower, and there wasn't too many people bringing stuff in. And now we get blessed because a lot of people drive from out of town and bring us their stuff, so we end up getting in tons of shit from all over the place.
Go ahead and tell your girlfriend that I broke you. Ain't no going back to the old you, just
So would you say like the LeBrons of today, the Kobe's of today, do you think they'll ever reach the Jordan status?
I don't know, like obviously like they're better shoes technologically, so they're better for balling. But I think like the fashion aspect of the Jordans is like I don't think it can be surpassed. But it's like, I don't know, like when the first when the Zoom Generations, the first LeBrons came out, like everyone thought they were whack as fuck. Nobody wanted them, and now you look back here because those are actually a pretty dope shoe, you know. So it's like it's really hard to tell what's gonna be. What up? It's hard to tell like what's gonna be a classic just because tastes change, you know. But I think shoes, like certain shoes that came out now, I think will forever be classics. Like Flyknit Racers are like hot now, but I think like that's a classic silhouette. There's some new stuff that's like I think gonna be held in the same regard someday, but it's hard to tell because taste changed so much culturally. You know, like shit was different in 1992 when the Jordan 6 came out. It's dope that it's still like relevant, but it's like who's to say that like people aren't gonna want those high top ass Kobe 9s in 20 years? You know, so it's like you just don't know what culture and what fashion is gonna really be like. You know.
It's honestly a direct rip. It's like very obvious. I don't think there's any hiding it. There's no reason for me to say that it's not. When you take our exact same idea and just copy it a few blocks down the street and try and duplicate something, but you're not as good as it, it's pretty obvious.
Sky and envision it all different. I'm making non-fiction. I put sort of through this penmanship. Just another sycophant. Fickle than emotions I'm pickling. And jars as large as the stars that we are envisioning. Love got lost in my limerick. And my homies a syndicate. Peer pressure push the ink throughout the pens that I scribble with. My mindset is militant. Dug too deep for this diligence. I'ma need faces with grimaces whenever I finish this. Yeah, don't ask me how my mind look, cause they were rough and been cutting cocaine inside these rhyme books.